Okay, let's go. Hello and welcome to the Monday Night Live show, where together we discover what's going down around the underground scene with a focus on independent publishing. The date is November 20th, 2023, and this show is brought to you by yours truly, the man broadcasting from behind the curtain. You know who I am. Because if you don't know by now, you can visit www.livefreeliverich.com or simply Google his name. You can find out. Now, you know what time it is. I like to take this time, slide right inside my first segment of the night, where I like to shine a spotlight on some books. That's right. That are currently available or coming soon to an online store near you. Yes, it's true. Let's see who's up first tonight. We have from the Twitter or X or Twix, Forever Lost at Sea. Just shares a link with me. This first book is called Forever Lost at Sea, Ryujin Rising, by dual author here. We have by Anghus, Houvouras, and Sarah Hutchins. All right, and there is the cover. Charles Wickham is bored with writing the same old stories for a small town newspaper and wants to find inspiration for that one story that will make his career. A spur-of-the-moment decision to investigate the mass beaching of a group of whales leads Charles on an adventure that may be more than he bargained for. After meeting Hideo, the mysterious only survivor of a Japanese whaling ship tragedy, Charles is drawn into a world where the monsters that lurk in the old tales are much more real than anyone would ever believe. Alongside Bess, a woman who defies the expectations of the era, and a Russian sea captain who has lived in the world of folklore and myth for longer than anyone could imagine. The crew hunts and confronts an ancient creature, evil, lurking in the icy waters of the North Pacific. Charles has found the story that will make him a renowned author, if he survives long enough to write it. 173 pages, sea adventures, fiction, horror, suspense, action, thriller fiction. All right. Of course, all these books in this first segment are all books that are suggested to me directly by the publisher, by the publishers, whether they be from an indie, a representative of an indie label, a small press company, or a self-published author. Let's see, up next here we have from Joanne Bell. She says, hello. I have a clean romance trilogy on Amazon under my pen name, Joanne Patterson. If you like, I can give you the individual links to the 3 books. They are fast-moving, inspirational stories about a young woman who lives in Nashville and her adventures. Country music is one of the main themes as she overcomes all kinds of adversity and becomes a country music star. This one is entitled Rebecca Steele, Chasing a Dream by Joanne Patterson. Okay. On vacation from her job as an airline ticket agent, Becky and her friend happen upon a big air show in Miami. What transpires that day will change her life in ways she could not have imagined. While falling hopelessly in love, an ironic twist of fate brings her the relationship that she has been searching for. In the process, she learns to overcome the heart-wrenching obstacles in her path, create a new career, and develop new insights. She emerges stronger and more vibrant than ever. Find out how Becky transforms her heartbreak into a new life that is positive and uplifting. Becky's story will give you hope for new life and new love. Journey with her now as she inspires you to hold fast to your dreams and to always keep your heart open to the power of love. Sometimes, no matter how hard we search for it, love in the end finds us. It's the power of love. 250 pages of later in life romance, war fiction, military romance. Military romance. Yeah, I did say there was a air show. So maybe it's she falls in love with a man in uniform. All right, last one for tonight. This one comes from Abigail Linhardt. Just shares a link to her book. And that book being Season of the Runer, Book 1, The Trial of Two by Abigail Linhardt. The power of love. All right, there's the cover. The endless road and life of a monster-hunting runer has gone stale for Zarek, and death is the only alternative. Tired of risking his life for the prejudiced people of Almira, it's time to just let go. The only thing that stands in his way, a runer cannot take his own life, breaking his oath to the dark magic that binds him to the hunt. When a warlord from the Far East threatens her family, Sybil, a young diamond mine heiress with a lavish lifestyle, takes action to protect her family and estate. But when her crime is witnessed, she must stand trial for murder. To save her own life, Sybil calls for a trial by runing, a dangerous and often fatal dark pact with unknown magic. Thrown together by law and dark magic oaths, Zarek and Sybil find themselves entangled with an eldritch force when a lone necromancer hell-bent on devastation rises up and ravages the eastern continents. Zarek must conquer his desire for his own demise and train the empathetic Sybil to save the people from a risen death. 380 pages of fantasy adventure, dark fantasy horror, sword and sorcery fantasy ebooks. And those are the books for this week, ladies and gentlemen. And if you see something you like, let me know. Head on over to my community tab where you can cast your vote for which one out of those 3 books you thought had the most text appeal. That's right. In other words, which one out of those 3 aforementioned titles would you be most likely to pick? And if you would like to discover more from the independent market, you can head on over to my playlist tab and open yourself up some mystery packs. Inside each mystery pack, there is a cover card that reveals a book from the independent market that was recognized by the Live Free Leverage Network. And inside the description section of each video, there is a link that will take you to an editorial specifically written for that book by yours truly. And now it's time for some announcements. Just one announcement this week, some quick housekeeping. The theme of this show kind of revolves around independent publishing. So it has to do a lot with indie authors, but also readers who read indie books. But as an author myself, I also would like to I always try to come up with creative ways and opportunities to kind of connect with my peers in the writing community, if you will. So whether you are a published author or an aspiring author, I have an opportunity that I would like to present to you. The Storytellers Society still accepting open submissions. This is a public collaborative project, basically an outreach program, really, for my peers in the writing community. What I'm looking for is flash fiction for this project. Flash fiction for this project is fiction that is between 500 all the way up to 2,000 words. This can be fiction that you actually have published somewhere else, so long as you own the copyright and you have the right to give me permission to republish it on my blog, where it will be free for public viewing from now and indefinitely. Just because you submit something doesn't mean that your work will automatically be published. It does need to be approved, but if approved, then you'll effectively book yourself a room at what I've dubbed the Hotel del SS, where all the members of the Storytellers Society stay. Yes, a little project of mine that I started a while back. It's kind of it's a public collaborative type of deal. I see it as a way of trying to, reach out to people, make it easier for other writers to kind of connect with me personally, and we can kind of start to build a kind of a peer-to-peer creative relationship, if you will, in that way. Especially with the rise of all this like AI generated crap that's coming out nowadays. Like, it's almost like it's a way of just being like, hey, is there anybody who's real out there? And by real, what I'm actually saying is passionate. Is there anyone out there that's like passionate about the craft? You just want to, write just for the sake of the art form, the craft. This is kind of one way of being able to do that. And while simultaneously building a relationship with somebody else who is legitimate in the field. So I think that it's, if with the social media, it's just like we need to start trying to figure out creative ways to connect with creative people. Tend to be pretty creative people who are, I would consider, dare I say, artists tend to be more of loner types or introverted, however you want to say it, really just kind of able to focus on their own projects and their own creativity. But when you're begin to start getting into, looking for like a readership, building an audience and this and that, well, networking becomes relevant. And I think that that's just one of those ways that I can network with my peers in a productive kind of way. Like, it's not just like, hey, I'll share your link and you share my link, or I'll follow your profile and you follow my profile. Like, that does nothing. Like the people, like the follow for follow shit, the tit for tat, like that does nothing. At least with this, like, this is an actual project that I am hosting through my blog. So it's like I'm opening my website to select individuals whose work I like. And that is something that I continue to market on a weekly basis on your behalf. So, which means traffic for you and exposure for your work. But at the same time, like, we can use that as an opportunity to kind of like get to know one another, All right. And that's all the announcements that I care to talk about this week. Now let's get into the last segment here before I wrap things up. And that is hot topic for content creators. Hot topic for content creators. This is where I pitch a hot topic to you, and then you turn around and create your own content on said topic. And you can come at these topics from a variety of angles and come up with your own subjects as we kind of continue to embroider these topics together. Or else you're always welcome. Just jump into the conversation by dropping some comments down below and or checking out any of my previously pitched hot topic videos, of which can be watched in any order. And for your convenience, I've created separate playlists for every individual hot topic that may have piqued your interest. Check those out. Now, tonight, the topic for tonight is why people read. Yes, why people read. And the subject for tonight is ebooks. I want to talk about why people read ebooks. Now, I can't speak for everybody, so what I'm going to do is share why I personally read ebooks. So I've come up with some reasons here, some personal reasons why I like to read ebooks. And first, let's just start off by addressing the elephant in the room, and that is storage space. Yes, I didn't buy a tablet because I have anything against the publication of physical books, but I do not consider myself much of a collector when it comes to books. So for that reason, I am very picky when it comes to purchasing physical books for the sake of adding them to my personal library. I originally bought my Kindle so I could read more books by indie and self-published authors. But this isn't to say that I am against owning physical copies of their work. It's just that physical books take up physical space. And let's face it, if I bought a physical copy of every book that I choose to read, then I would slowly but surely increase my need for square footage and or a place to dump or donate the dross that takes up valuable shelf space. I wouldn't feel right about throwing books in the trash. So I would either have to temporarily store them someplace until there's enough to warrant a trip to a bookstore that's willing to take them, or a Goodwill, or else I will be frequently making trips to either of those places, which is not how I would like to spend my time. When it comes to collecting physical books, one thing to keep in mind is that physical books not only require physical space, but each physical book adds literal weight to your library, which makes moving around a pain in the ass. With an e-reader, not only can I store thousands upon thousands of ebooks on a single device, but the actual weight of carrying around a literal library does not go beyond the physical specs of the device itself. No longer is it necessary to pick and choose which books will be packed for travel, not to mention the fact that you can read virtually anything in public and everyone around you would be none the wiser. So, for instance, if you just so happen to be someone who likes to read erotic content featuring extraterrestrials that have extra testicles and or tentacles, without having to explain yourself or face embarrassment, you might want to think about it. An e-reader could make for a good travel companion as far as that goes, not to mention the damage prevention to precious physical books by doing so. I don't know about you, but I like to keep all my physical books in good shape. I don't like busted spines, putting stickers on books, and I do not write on any of my books, which brings me to another reason why I read ebooks. The software features and tools of e-reading apps. So like I said before, I bought my Kindle with the intent to read and review more books from the independent market. In order for me to write my reviews and editorials, there's quite a few things I have to do while I'm actually reading the material. from color tabs, highlighters, bookmarks, as well as on-the-fly annotations, I can effectively mark up my ebooks without doing any permanent damage because everything I do can be edited or deleted. So just for example here, let me bring it up on the fly. So here's so for instance, here's something that I'm currently reading. I can open up the app and bada boom, bada bing, it opens up to where I last closed the app. So, and I have the page bookmarked right here. But you could put in several bookmarks depending on where you are. So not only can I open that, navigating is so easy, but I won't get into that just yet. But I want to open up my notebook. So I got my digital notebook right here. Okay, you can see I'm already starting to take some notes. And you can see these colors on the left here. So you can open that up and you got all your highlights right there. And it tells you how many highlights, the number of highlights you have for each individual color. And they give you 4 different colors to work with. Then you have your notes tab down here. And then you have your bookmarks, the number of bookmarks that you've placed inside. So this is great. So just a little inside, just to show it, just to like actually like show it and how that works. But I'll give you a little behind the scenes. When I'm reading a book, what I'll do is I always use these little highlighter tabs. So I use my yellow, for instance, like I'd be interested to know if you guys use these features, like if you read ebooks and like what you do with them. For me, I'll use yellow to kind of like mark down every time there's a new character introduced in a story. Regardless if I know whether or not they're a support character or if they're going to play a main role in the plot, doesn't matter. Anytime there's a name that is dropped in a story, I'll just highlight that name in yellow and just add it to the list. So then when I'm going back and I'm writing my reviews and I need to know, you know, whether it be a character's name or if I need to know a total amount of characters that were introduced in a story, I can just click that tab and I get a big long list of just a bunch of names that I've highlighted while I was reading. Now the blue tab, I use that to highlight basically any kind of interesting or plot points or anything like that that I wanted to maybe mention later on, or I think may be important to bring up later. The pink I don't use very often. The pink is really just for like locations, setting, basically just locations and setting if there's any that need to be, I feel like need to be remembered. And then the orange tab I use for quotes, any kind of, you know, interesting quotes or something like that that I might want to take note of. So this makes taking notes for my editorials a piece of cake, especially when I read before going to bed, which I often like to do. Now, if this was a physical copy of a book, then I would need to have a notepad handy, a bookmark. I would have to flip between pages to recall any specific reference point. And God forbid I forget to write down where it was in the book. Even if I forget to highlight a passage while I'm reading an ebook, I can always bring up the search function and just type in some key words I remember. It's also interesting sometimes to see if an author has a crutch word. As an author, I think I have several crutch words, but I digress. Although my final reason for reading ebooks has to do with the fact that I also have ebooks published on the market, which means putting my money where my mouth is. I consider this reason to be a matter of ethics, where my principles take precedence over preference. To me, it just wouldn't make sense to expect other people to purchase my ebooks if I was someone who personally refused to financially support that format. Every time I spend money on ebooks, not only is it a means of justifying my own published work, but I feel as though it's a way of validating the ebook format itself as a reader and reviewer, while also appreciating the indie market as a paying customer. What a concept, huh? It's almost as if it's just the right thing to do. Now, this isn't to say that, I should own, it's the only format I'll read, indie or anything like that. Like, I do have physical copies of indie books as well. And, there's actually nothing, this may come as a surprise for some people, but there's actually nothing stopping you from owning multiple editions of the same book. I know readers who do that all the time, especially with their favorite titles. Lord of the Rings comes to mind. People have there are people out there try to collect, it seems like, every single edition of the Lord of the Rings. But say I'm talking formats. So say like some people like to switch between. Let's say you buy the ebook format for, reading while you're in bed or something like that. Before you go to bed, you're just reading the ebook. But then like you don't finish the book and then you want to continue the book, say when you go to the gym or something like that, or you're doing your workouts, and you would get an audio book format of the book to like pick up where you left off. I know there's some people that like to do that. Me, I don't typically do like the switching between formats like that. Like if I just like start reading a book in whatever format, I usually just finish it in that format. But that's just a personal thing based on the time that I have. I usually do have the time to dedicate to just reading a whole book, usually within a couple sittings, depending on the length. So do you read ebooks? And if you do, what are your reasons for doing so? Perhaps you have something you'd like to say about my reasoning. If that's the case, then I say go ahead, make your own video. Let me know how you really feel. All right. Let's get into the wrap up. All right, I do have a comment that I'd like to get to here. And this comes from last week's show. It's from Ben Pick from Running to Write. And this has to do, he's making a comment about the last week's hot topic. I was talking about avoiding, it was the topic of art and artificial intelligence, and I was sharing some of my personal guidelines that would help to avoid getting scammed by people who are looking to use gay tech to rip people off. Ben says, and Ben writes here, sadly, whenever there is money to be had, there will be people attempting to exploit others. Whether that is using software to coach, edit, etc. others, or someone using software to generate new content in the form of AI drawings or stories. I think any AI tool can be interesting as a thought experiment to answer questions like, what could I create? Or how should I create this? Those would be starting points or outlines or tools to help generate ideas, rather than a final product an artist creates. He says, also, I almost always ignore requests from everyone who reaches out to me offering a service to improve my writing or website. Yeah, there's a lot of those out there. Usually get those thanks for the comment, Ben. Usually it's like the people who are into like marketing and stuff like that, promoters, so-called promoters that are out there, which is kind of a dirty word to me. I really do not consider myself a promoter, whereas on this show, I see it more of raising awareness. I say like, hey guys, like I am somebody who is in support of the indie market, the underground scene as a whole. And these are some of the projects that just so happen to be out there. Now, these aren't projects that I myself go out there in search of. These are projects from people who come to me. They come to me, they reach out to me. I say, that's the deal with this show. You got to step up and stand behind your project. And if you share the link with me or you get in contact with me, then I'm willing to check it out. Check it out during a show. That doesn't mean that it's me endorsing that project. I'm just basically saying to my audience, hey guys, this is something that exists within the indie scene. Maybe you want to check it out, maybe you don't. I've actually, sometimes it's just fun to see what the hell is going on out there. Because it really is, for me, that's part of the excitement, because it really is like the Wild West. That's the allure of the underground scene. But that's it for me this week, ladies and gentlemen. With that in mind, I hope y'all had some fun. I hope y'all discovered something new. But don't fret, because guess what? I will be back here for you next week, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 6 p.m. Pacific. Have a good week.